Hello everyone, I'm Scared Titan here, and this is the Kuaka Art Drawing Contest. Today is where I'll take all currently submitted entries and judge each piece individually. We're going by submission order, such as August to September to October, you know the drill. And I'll determine the 3 winners at the end of the video, so please make sure you're watching this all the way through and not skipping anything. Also, I'll critique their work. And no, I'm not going to be harsh and say why it's bad and so on and so forth. Rather, I'm going to be pointing out certain things of a piece and how it can be improved on the work. As artists, we should be helping each other to improve. Without further ado, let's get started. Alright, here is Zengo's submission. Submitted on August 17th, 2020. And it's interesting. The colors and line work are solid enough. I mean, this is Henry Stickmin's art style. Nothing too complex is being put into it. There seems to be a little bit of story here where Kuaka and Xango find out reality just broke, and it's all thanks to Henry Stickmin himself. The one standing out the most is Kuaka herself. Her ponytail, shoulder pads, pants, sandals, and waist cape are all there. I can only imagine how Kuaka would have looked in animation if the Henry Stickmin style were to take place. And I think you got most of Kuaka's details in, which is nice. I would have liked to see a little more detail in, but given how this is Henry Stickmin's style, it's justified. I would have liked to see a little more originality with the art style, though. So maybe kind of deviating a little bit more would have been nice. Maybe taking some inspirations from Fancy Pants or any other stick figure flash games that's been released like over a decade ago that probably would have given the style a little bit more of an interesting turn. All in all, it's an alright piece. Not bad. Let's move on. This is Lord Genie Julius' submission. Or Ginamarco's? Either way, it's been submitted on August 18th, 2020. And she's fully drawn, and all of her details are in. The pose is striking at most, and has a bit of a chill attitude going. The color scheme is solid, and I do like the lighting on her ponytail and pants. I do feel like parts of her, such as her vest, waist cape, and shoulder pads, seem to lack a bit of shading and highlighting, including her chained gauntlets. I mean, getting the chains are really hard to get. So it does take a little bit of time to get to. Maybe just a bit more shading and highlighting would have been nice. It just feel a little bit more complete, but everything else looks nice. I'd say it's a really decent piece there, Julius, or Ginamarco, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. Here we are with Cas Chronon, or Zebinky submission. Submitted on August 21st, 2020. Or 2020, or whichever. Anyways, there's also been work in progress images of the same picture started on August 16th and officially submitted on August 21st. Yeah, I'm really digging this piece. I mean, even when I saw the work in progress pics, I was really looking forward to this piece. I can tell you're going for the half genie hero style, and you nailed it. I was expecting Kuaka to look a little more sagely in the sense of her expression of her eyes, but the happy look from Shantae still works on her. After all, Risky did mention that she was like Shantae, only to be taller and less annoying. Anyways, I love the color scheme. Great use of shading and highlighting. Most outlines are very well done. And I also liked how you did the background for her, where Kuaka is dancing to transform into an Eastern dragon or something. It's really nice. The only thing I kind of had to nitpick on this piece would have to be the outlines on her ears. Notice how the rest of her body, such as her belly, arms, hands, and even her head, they're all outlined by dark tan outlines. And notice how every other color on her has segmented outlines. help each of them kind of feel like it's part of the color, but it's outlined. The outlines on her ears are black instead of dark tan for some reason. I'm not sure if it's a detail that you missed or if there's something else that's going on. I mean, it's noticeable, but it's not really that bad. I still really like this piece a lot. It's really, really good. So, that's really it, really. Let's move on. Okay, here is GamingMints' entry, submitted on August 25th, 2020. And it's pretty interesting. There's a little bit going on with the scene. I think this guy is summoning Kuaka from the lamp with her genie tail, hair, and waist cape taking shape out of the mist. I liked how you worked on details like that. I also like the background you did here. The style looks very 1930s, something out of Cuphead or Steamboat Willie. But I liked how you push a little bit more creativity with this piece, especially the background. If there are some stuff that I wanted to talk about with this piece particularly, it would have to be the outlines inside Kuaka's genie tail. It looks like you might have sketched the lines a little bit much, and when you do that and after you erase it, it does become a little bit noticeable, even when you color that with a marker or so, whatever you use. So I'm imagining you were trying to figure out how to draw her tail where it comes from, out of the lamp, so to speak. I can also see that in her bra as well. Maybe trying to draw a little bit gentler when sketching might actually make things a little bit easier. Another way you could do it is by using the Prismacolor pencils or any other good color pencils that could help cover up some of the unwanted details like that. So while we're on the topic, I'm noticing some of the outlines on Kuaka are just kind of crossing in one another, which they shouldn't be, I'm guessing. And I'm also noticing the colors are just kind of popping in and out, like passing in through the outlines a bit. Not a whole lot, but not a whole lot. It's just a little bit that just happens. I also noticed that the outlines between her and the little guy seem to be a little inconsistent, because when you look at the guy, he has thick outlines, but then when you look at Kuaka, she has really thin lines. So I'm not sure what's going on in this scene or what you're trying to get with. Maybe just something to make sure that it matches with the style a little bit. So again, I know these are hard to work with, and I know it's I know it's kind of hard to work with, but just something to look out for. Just making sure that the outlines are consistent with each other, and also to making sure that the lines and the colors aren't just kind of passing in and out, just making sure that they're tightly drawn and making sure to sketch just a little bit lightly, and then you can make the final lines. Or if that ever happens, you can use the method that I use. Either way, it can work. I know I've gone on a little bit long on this one, but I do like the piece. I think it's a good effort, but it could use a little bit more work next time. So just some advice for you, man. I hope I hope the best for you. Next thing. This is Eli's submission, submitted on September 3rd, 2020. Wow, I'm really digging this piece. The amount of detail, lighting, shading, and color scheme are just spot on. I also love how you worked on the flames and chains. They look excellent. The anatomy is also really good. The background is very well put, and it works nicely with Kuaka summoning. The face does look a bit strange at first, mainly how the lips seem to be a bit too close to her nose and just looking a little bit too masculine. Not a lot, but just a little. But really, those are just minor nitpicks. They're not that much, honestly. I still think this looks great. I don't have anything else to critique. Let's move on. Here we have Sami's work, or Aerith, submitted on October 2nd, 2020. I'm sure some of you may be familiar with this art style somewhere on DeviantArt or anywhere else under different names, but it's a long story, so let's try to focus on the entry itself. I'm loving this. I dig her art overall, but this is probably one of my favorites from this artist overall. I love the shading and the highlighting. It just makes Kuaka look very bright and majestic in a dark background. And even the background itself, which is entirely black, still really works with this piece, honestly. The reflection on her shoulder pads, gems, hip pieces, everything are brilliant. Her hair is like, oh my god, the mixing on the hair's light and shading look freaking amazing. Even the less detailed areas such as her pants or waist cape and vest are excellently well done, and even the flames are a really nice touch too. I mean, it just looks like you really worked your butt off on this one, so this is really fantastic. If there is one thing that I kind of need to nitpick on this piece, would have to be the gem's placement on her waist cape to the left. It kind of pops out of the hip piece for some reason, because if you look at one side it looks like it's connected, but the other just kind of seems dragged farther away from the center of the hip pieces. But I mean, honestly, it's really just a tiny detail. I really don't have any other issues, honestly. And I'm not a perfectionist, so you're safe. So, yeah, this is great, Sami. I love it as well as I loved all of your artwork. Let's move on. Alright, here is Gage's entry. Submitted on October 2nd, 2020. I like this piece. The colors are well done. Shading and highlighting are good. I also like the background you got going. Very flowing in a way. The flames are a nice touch too. There are a few things I do want to point out. Her legs seem to be a bit off. I can imagine her left leg being a bit longer if it were lowered down, so to speak. Having one of your legs raised up usually goes about as low as your leg's knee, not to the ankle. I could offer two suggestions for future references. Either you could lengthen the straight leg, or you can shorten the bent leg. Either one can work. Other the point are her sandals. It looks like one of her sandals on her right has a very different design, whereas her left one matches her signature shoes. They're fine, but I think either sticking with the sandals that she usually wears, or you could give her new sandals but having them both look the same. But I mean, those are just little details. She seems to be lacking a belly button too. So far, a lot of other entries, even art pieces before this, had her belly button, so I'm not sure if that was a missing detail, but again, those are just really small details. The legs is probably the bigger one, but the other two are just really small details. So yeah, it's not bad, Gage. It's pretty good. Let's move on. Okay, here is an entry made by an anonymous artist. They'd rather be anonymous for a private reason, so let's just keep moving forward. Submitted on October 4th, 2020. Boy, this looks terrific. I could tell so much effort was being put into this piece. The colors, shading, highlight, and effects are just off the scale. All the details are excellently drawn. Some of the little marks and bits make Kuaka feel a little bit more real than just looking fake. Which isn't bad if you don't have the details for a cartoony style, but usually for anime style art or semi-realistic art, this works and it's necessary. So what you did here it's great. I notice her chains aren't connecting to the flames, but I mean, either if it's a process of becoming enslaved to the lamp, or if there's another reason, but canon or not, the details on the chains are still welcomed. I especially love the flames. Seeing how, it just looks so thick at the very bottom when it's coming out of the gap, and then it becomes, uh, you know, it just fades right at the very top. It's really nice detail. So yeah, I love it. Great job, Anonymous. Let's move on. And finally, Harrielson's entry, submitted on October 13th, 2020. This was the last entry that was submitted before the contest ended. Anyways, I like what's going on here. I like the background, it looks really decent. A good mix of turquoise and purple. It kind of gives Kuaka a bit of a chilling feel, so to speak. It's not as fitting as with fire, but hey, either one can still work. The colors on Kuaka are great. The shading, highlighting, it all works really well. Especially the outlines that you got going. What's interesting are the gauntlets. The chains are included, but it also has a bit of a silver touch to the color scheme. I think it gives Kuaka a bit more of a knightly look, which is interesting. I also noticed that Kuaka's skin is white, but hey, I mean, either it's tan or white, it can still work. I mean, after all, that was her canonical. That's how she was canonically before she became a genie and spent hundreds of years getting a tan, somewhere in those lines. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. That's really that's not noteworthy. So yeah, I think it looks really nice. So good job.